Alright, welcome back to another episode of me spreading cancer onto YouTube. This time, it's in honor of the first birthday of Warzone. It is March 10th, 2021, and Warzone came out March 10th, 2020. I played on the very first day that Warzone ever came out. And God knows I wasn't playing, like, Battle Royale. No, I was playing Plunder because I was way too afraid to go into a Battle Royale game at that point. It was actually a really long time before I really started to get to the Battle Royale mode of Warzone. At first, I would stick primarily to Plunder, just to upgrade my guns, because I had no guns upgraded. I didn't have multiplayer at first, because I got Warzone before I got multiplayer, and it was a while before I got multiplayer. Like, I got it in, like, August of 2020. So really the only primary way I could upgrade my guns or like get good guns was Plunder, which is why I never really got into that Battle Royale scene until later on. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I don't know what I'm talking about. I wanted to talk today about the Warzone meta and how it's like evolved over the years. I say years, but it's literally been 1 year. It feels way longer than that though, mostly because I played constantly from like season 1 on, so it felt like a much longer time than to most people who only play like once in a while. I played like literally every day for the past year. That's not true, I did take a break in between there. Anyway, today I'm gonna talk about like all the seasons and how the meta has changed in between every season. I'm just gonna go like an overview, you know, of every season in Warzone history, and I want you guys to comment what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong, because I'm gonna be talking about how I think the game was played generally, how the meta has shifted, how the player base has shifted, and I want you guys to comment on what you think, you know? Tell me what's going on. Season 1 was the first season of Warzone for obvious reasons. Really, the main playstyle of Warzone was really just starting to evolve then, so there really wasn't much of a meta at the moment. Really, the meta in Warzone was just the meta for Modern Warfare multiplayer. So you had the 7.25, you had the M4, the MP5 was also dominant back then. Snake shots were, you know, still a thing. I don't know if a lot of people remember how good they were. That was so long ago, but I mean, they were dominant. They were amazing. Really, the primary sniper back then was probably the HDR. It wasn't really the Kar 98 yet. Nobody used the Kar 98 because nobody realized how powerful it was. They always probably thought about it as weak, but now we know you just, you know, you quick scope people with a headshot and it's like the most powerful gun in the game. Another really consistent weapon in Season 1 was the RPG. I don't know if any of you guys remember, but the RPG back in Season 1 was dominant. It was one of the, pretty much a meta. Also, vehicles. Like, back then, vehicles, nobody really had a counter to vehicles. If you had a vehicle and you decide to start running someone over with it, like today, you would be wiped out so fast, your head would spin. There wasn't really a counter to vehicles. You just got run over and you stood there helplessly thinking about what to do. Season 2 brought around the beginning of the Growl meta. It actually took a while for the Growl meta to take form, because not many people knew it was good at first, if I remember correctly. Also, the Striker came out, but no one ever used that. It never got any traction. Basically, just the same deal, but with the Growl very much mixed in. Like, a very large portion of the season was only the Growl. The RPG was kind of slowing down, so were the vehicles. People stopped running the RPG and the vehicles at the same time, kind of, because they both kind of started to lose their form. People would stop using the vehicles because the RPGs were getting more consistent and the C4 was starting to take form. And then also people stopped using the RPG because the vehicles started to use the trophy system. And at the end of this season, the snake shots got nerfed, so that is a victory royale right there. Season 13 brought the SKS and the Renetti into play. Neither of them really took form. At the beginning, though, I will say that the dual Renettis were very prominent as the secondary weapon if you were running Ghost or something like that. But the SKS, nothing ever happened to that gun. The Bruin came in mid-season for Season 3. It started to take form very late. I wouldn't even say Season 3, really. I'd say more of, like, the beginning of Season 4. That's when the Bruin meta started to form. The meta definitely became more diverse that season. Like, you had things like the M13, the M4, the Kilo, the Growl, guns like that were kind of the first, like, their first times as the meta became the meta that season. So it was definitely a changing point for Warzone, definitely a more diverse season. Season 4 was essentially the same thing. It added the AMAX and the ISO. ISO never really took form. It kinda did, but not really. Kind of more of like a striker kind of gun, never really took form. The AMAX really became a meta later on in like Season 5, 6, because at first people didn't like the way that like you couldn't control it without being like a mastermind or like having a keyboard and mouse, so a lot of the PS4 players wouldn't use it. But the PC players were just dominating with this gun. They added the Rytech mid-season as well, but that's not even worth discussing. If you play any amount of Warzone, you already know the deal with the Rytech. The foul meta, yeah, remember that? Like the 2-tap thingy, pretty much just the prelude to the DMR. That was a thing in Season 4, and it was pretty much the end of the M4. That was pretty much the last season I remember seeing a lot of the M4. Most of the time I would just see the Growl or the M13 or some other kind of new meta gun come into play, but overall that was the end of the M4. So Season 5, kind of a pathetic season, if I'm being honest. Some of the worst metas in the game happened in Season 5, one of them being the R90, the Origin, the shotgun meta. Most shotguns were in there. They even had the 725 coming back with the slug rounds for like 20 minutes. All the YouTubers did their content on it, and then, you know, just let it die. The DLC weapons were the AN94 and the Fennec. AN94 was just, it was bad. It was really bad. It didn't even come close to the potential it could have had if they, you know, made it right. But the Fennec was very underrated, still is very underrated, still is one of the more powerful guns in the game. And I feel like more people should use that. When you see clips of Warzone, you see a lot of the Fennec. And sometimes, not as prevalent as like the MAC-10 nowadays, but before you did see a lot of the Fennec coming around. But that was because it was so dominant, and people just never even realized how dominant it was. This was also about the time where the Kar98 just took over Warzone. Like, every game now, it's just literally half the lobby, if not more, running around the Kar98, and that number would only increase. Now it's like almost the entire game. You're lucky if you don't see someone with a Kar98. It's literally just the one gun that everyone runs. Kind of ironic how there are like 100 guns in the game now, right? And the only guns that people use are like these 3 Cold War weapons and then the Kar98. Like, it's the only guns that people use anymore, even though there are like 100 options that you could use. Season 6 is the last season of Warzone being purely a Modern Warfare title. This is the last season before the integration, obviously. The DLC weapons were the AS Val, the SPR, and then mid-season you got the JAK-12. Now the Val in solos is, I'd say, the dominant weapon. A lot of people would disagree, but I personally, the Val is just the dominant weapon. You can't lose with that thing up close. As long as you hit literally 30% of your shots, you'll win. The SPR, in the beginning, the SPR was hit scan. It had no bullet drop at all when you used the certain ammo attachment, which made it unbelievably overpowered in the beginning. For about, I'd say, 4 weeks in the beginning, that SPR, man, ooh, I mean, I was getting sniped, and then I'd see where I'm sniping from, and I'm getting sniped from, like prison to farmland. Like, I can't even see him on my map. The JAK-12 never really caught on, honestly. I see why. It's 8 rounds. You could put the 32 round drum mag, but kind of immobile when you do that. Kind of like, I don't know. I honestly think it's decent. Kind of, but a lot of people would disagree. Just never caught on. But this is the last season of Modern Warfare Warzone. After this, it moves on to the Cold War integration. So, when Warzone was integrated with Cold War, I think personally, that was the worst change to a video game I've ever seen. I hated it. I didn't like any of the weapons. I mean, they were good, but having a really good meta weapon isn't a good thing. That doesn't mean that the game's fun at all. I think it actually means the opposite. Me personally, if they had added like these, you know, mid-range weapons that I can normally get down with, like that'd be fine. But they only add these either cracked as hell weapons or these terrible weapons, and it just ruined the experience for me. I'm not gonna split the two seasons apart. If you want to remember it, just remember that Season 1 was the DMR, Season 2 was the not DMR. It's what it was. I mean, if we're being honest. Like, the DMR just completely ruined Warzone so much that I literally stopped playing. Like, I wouldn't play the game for a really long time. It just really just ruined the entire experience for me. I stopped playing for about a month in that season. I came back, DMR, I hardly played it if I was playing at all. Same thing for Season 2, really, I just kind of stopped playing. I've been slowing down on Warzone. Like, I really don't want to play it anymore. I want them to, like, I want them to remove the Cold War guns, but I'm a rational man, so I know that's never gonna happen. In all actuality, though, I don't know. I guess you could say some people love this Cold War update. They got the FFAR. That's like their new favorite toy. So, I don't know, I guess it's your own personal preference, but... And that's pretty much it. I feel like that's the entire history of Warzone in a nutshell. I just feel like... yeah, it really had a downfall, like, later on. I feel like in the beginning it was so much better than how it ended off at the end of this year. But, overall, Warzone's still an amazing game. Still one of my favorites of all time, if I'm being honest. The beginning more so than the end, but still, I do love the game. I just wish they'd remove Cold War weapons, which I know will never happen, but, you know, you're allowed to dream, aren't you? Anyway, if you did enjoy this, please subscribe. I'm poor. And, please, drop an upvote on the video. That was a joke, by the way. Please drop a like on the video. I'm not a Reddit kid. That was a joke. Please forgive me for I have sinned.